Esteemed guests, the interim provost of New York University, Georgina Dopico.
Esteemed guests, thank you for joining us during what we know is a very difficult time. We recognize that today's ceremony takes place in the shadow of devastating events. Before we begin, I offer, on the university's behalf, our deepest condolences for innocent lives lost and a fervent hope for peace. Over the past week, we've had many conversations about this morning's ceremony. We consulted colleagues and friends, faculty, students, and staff who helped us arrive at the decision not to postpone this inauguration. That it was right to mark this important moment in the life of the university, recognizing the role that universities play, not just as refuges of truth in Hannah Arendt's stunning words, but also as beacons of truth and hope, of dialogue and possibility, even, perhaps especially, in times like these. We are humbled and grateful that so many of you decided to join us. And so, it is my great honor to welcome all of you and to declare this special academic convocation celebrating the inauguration of the 17th president of New York University hereby convened. Today marks only the 17th time in the university's history that a new chief executive has taken office, and the first time since NYU's founding in 1831 that a woman will serve as its president. An inauguration represents more than the investiture of a new president, however. It is a ritual, both joyous and solemn, that calls on us as members of an institution to remember our history, reflect on our present, and commit to a path for the future. On January 6, 1830, NYU's founders set down their intention to establish a new institution of learning. It is highly desirable and expedient, they wrote, to establish in the city of New York a university on a liberal foundation which shall correspond with the spirit and wants of our age and country, and which shall enlarge the opportunities of education for such of our youth as shall be found qualified and inclined to improve them. Since its very founding, the University of the City of New York, as we were then named, was grounded in liberal critical thinking to meet the demands and possibilities of its time and place, and to expand access to and opportunity through education. Today, as NYU approaches its third century, we face extraordinary challenges: war, political polarization, distrust in institutions, a warming planet, democracies in crisis. But we are also, right here at NYU, in a moment of extraordinary possibilities, from quantum networks to neural networks, from AI to efforts to strengthen democracy, from arts that move and provoke us to scholarship that pushes the boundaries of knowledge, all underwritten by a deep commitment to education. And at the intersection of those challenges and possibilities, our collective responsibility to the future, to continue being in and of the city and in and of the world, understanding what global citizenship demands of us, or to being a private university in the public service, recognizing the breadth and depth of our reach, but also of our obligations, or finally, living up to the promise of the words per stare et prestare in ways that are just and equitable and care for the planet and for each other. I can think of no one better suited to lead us into that future than NYU's 17th president, Linda G. Mills.
Please welcome Joy Harjo, 23rd Poet Laureate of the United States.
Henje Stongo. We are here to open the path of goodwill, commitment to excellence and service, and to acknowledge this land on which we are gathered and the keepers of this land. This area is historically in the care of the Lenape people, also known as the Delaware. The name Manhattan comes from Mannahatta, which translates as island of many hills in the Lenape language. The transaction with Peter Minuit, German-born and director of the Dutch colony of New Netherland in 1626 for the so-called purchase of the island, took place under a tulip tree in Inwood Park. As there was no concept for selling land, a notion difficult to grasp in the indigenous mind, for there was no place for such a concept. I imagine the Lenape thought the gifts were an exchange, a thank you for allowing Minuit's people to rest there. In 1933, Lenape descendants appeared in New York City Hall and asked for land to establish a reservation in Inwood Park. They were denied. That same year, the tulip tree was felled by a storm. Though most of the Lenape or Delaware were moved to the Ohio River Valley, then they were removed to Indiana, then to Missouri, then to Kansas, and then in 1867 to the Cherokee Nation in Indian Territory, which became Oklahoma. There are still Lenape here in New York City. The keepers of a land are the ones who feed the land and the inhabitants with songs, with poetry, who keep track of the welfare of the planet, of the plant, animal, and elemental life forms. Their well-being is ours. When the keepers are forcibly removed, there is disturbance in the land and with all persons who depend on the land. Every resident here has a part in this story field of existence and how it is rooted, including the president of New York University, Linda Mills, who has accepted a position of leadership. I offer this song in gratitude for those keepers who continue to tend that which feeds our minds and spirits, and an acknowledgement of this moment of stepping into a place of authority. Agasame, Hisagaramasi, Pomadi, Moe, Towigas, Pogohoyan, Ye, Giadi, Mon Agatlechka, Heathlin, Pogalajan, Abiaothlis, with praise for the breath maker through whose intent we arrive here and by whose grace we leave. And finally this, like everyone else here, as was spoken at the beginning, we are all watching, listening, and feeling poised at a moment of violence and disturbance, because those are our relatives. Those are our relatives, and we will find out and remember one day that we are all related to each other. And I did what poets do. We all have to deal with this in our own way. And so, because I'm a poet, I wrote this, and I will end with this. When there is nothing else, I am a prayer. I am a prayer of rain in the desert when the flowering ones need a drink. I am a prayer. I am a prayer of sun when there is no end to night. I am a prayer. I am a prayer of ocean when there is no more blue. I am a prayer. I am a prayer of clouds when few make rain songs. I am a prayer. I'm a prayer of roads that lead anywhere but home. I am a prayer. I'm a prayer of white birds who cannot fly through a storm of fear. I am a prayer. I'm a prayer of fire who arrived to care for humans, then misused to destroy. I am a prayer. I'm a prayer of wind whose breathing carries seeds, pollens, and songs to feed the generations. I am a prayer. I am a prayer of grief when life gambled with death and gave up families for guns. I am a prayer. I'm a prayer of smoke wandering the broken houses, the littered ground, looking for a white flag of reason. I am a prayer. I'm a prayer of mountains those tall, humble ones who agreed to lift our eyes to see. I am a prayer. I am a prayer of forever making a path of beauty through the rubble of eternity. I am a prayer. I am a prayer of poetry speaking to the soundlessness of the dead who return to speak in prayer. I am a prayer with children on my back, roaming the earth house of destruction and creation. I am a prayer without end.
Please welcome David Irving, Chair of the Tenured Tenure Track Faculty Senators Council and Associate Professor in the Department of Undergraduate Film and Television at the Tisch School of the Arts.
Good morning. It is an honor to be asked to speak today at Dr. Mills's inauguration as NYU's 17th president. Last night, my wife Susan and I hosted one of the pre-inauguration dinners for 8 members of the NYU community. Ellen, I don't know whose idea it was to have these almost 100 dinners, but last night was one of the most enjoyable, warm, and stimulating evenings I have experienced in my 35 years at NYU. After brief introductions and a funny anecdote from one of our guests about the Manhattan clam chowder, which was originally called Coney Island clam chowder, the conversation shifted to and continued throughout the evening to focus on Dr. Mills and the future of NYU. The consensus at the dinner was that NYU is an extraordinary university that now has an extraordinary president. Linda is a colleague who has already dedicated most of her career to our great university, a scholar who is recognized for her groundbreaking research in domestic violence, for reimagining how communities and systems respond to it, for challenging the norm. A leader at the forefront of global education and campus wellness. A Renaissance woman celebrated for her work as a lawyer, a documentary filmmaker, and as a champion of multi-faith initiatives. A woman now at the helm of our great institution for the first time in NYU's 192-year history. It is my honor to welcome you to New York City, to NYU, and to this historic ceremony, an all-encompassing welcome that should apply to everyone here today. To those who have traveled from afar, from nearby, and from a classroom, office, or a dorm room on campus. Befitting our global network, I also want to welcome those who are watching from around the world via live stream. We have gathered to participate in a significant moment in NYU's history. Presidential inaugurations are always momentous, even if this one is particularly historic. But I imagine most of us are here for more than just pomp and circumstance. We are here because we see the possibilities in this moment. We value the power of coming together to chart our collective future, and we understand that every one of us can play a part. To underscore that point, today's ceremony showcases people from across the university and the globe, starting with the music that played as you entered the room, a contribution from Joseph Esposito, professor at New York University's Courant Institute of Mathematical Sciences. Music by a math professor to celebrate the intersection of disciplines. Electronic music that pushes the envelope of what you might expect at an academic gathering. A land acknowledgement and poem by the remarkable Joy Harjo, the 23rd U.S. Poet Laureate, who combines history and artistry to offer a meaningful take on the important practice of recognizing the stewards of this land. Then there are the pieces you have yet to experience, such as an excerpt from Pulitzer Prize-winning composer and NYU professor Julia Wolfe, whose work is known for its energy, intensity, and power, pushing performers, audiences, and music to new heights. Linda is a colleague who has already dedicated most of her career to our great university, a scholar who is recognized for her groundbreaking research on domestic violence, for reimagining how communities and systems respond to it, for challenging the norm, a leader at the foremost of global education. Geez, I already did that. It bears worth repeating. Anyway, this didn't have page numbers. Today's program is filled with details like those, details that compel us to see things in a different light. As someone who grew up in the theater, the most obvious one is this venue. We have gathered in a gym with a few familiar elements like bleachers, as well as many unexpected ones like a stage in the round. Hello. This delightfully different design sets the stage for how NYU convenes people from around the world on our campus in a way that is both distinctive and full of meaning. On this historic occasion, we gather as a community not just to watch and see, but to join in. We welcome all of you into the circle.
Please welcome Evan R. Chesler, Chair of the Board of Trustees of New York University, an alumnus of the College of Arts and Science and the School of Law.
Good morning. I am not one of the pieces you have yet to experience. On behalf of NYU's Board of Trustees, I warmly welcome you today to celebrate the inauguration of Linda G. Mills, the university's 17th president. Today is a time to reflect on NYU's spectacular trajectory. We have risen to become one of the finest, most admired universities in the world. We are the global university. Like so many here today, I have been a beneficiary of that historic accomplishment. Since I first arrived as a 17-year-old freshman with a scholarship, I and so many others have benefited from the university's vision, can-do spirit, and belief in education's infinite possibilities. NYU's generosity to me as an undergraduate has propelled me through my life. I am honored to begin my new role as chairman of the board with the remarkable, gifted, and creative Linda Mills. We have been blessed with extraordinary leaders through good times and bad. How meaningful it is that John Sexton and Andy Hamilton are with us today to hear our gratitude. You have passed to Linda a university that is global, embracing of the world's multiplicity, unafraid and dedicated to conversation, expression, innovation, and community. A university allergic to the word no. Linda's life and career before NYU and in her tenure here exemplify these qualities. As a vice chancellor, chaired professor, researcher, lawyer, clinical social worker, and filmmaker, Linda draws on the vast experience and innate ability to see the world through multiple lenses, which make her the perfect champion to face complex new challenges confidently and collaboratively. NYU brings generative curiosity to seemingly intractable problems. Linda listens first without preconceptions, and then she acts. In her brief time in office, she has already listened to literally thousands of voices around the university, and she will act on what she has learned. BA, JD, MSW, PhD, Linda's academic accomplishments demonstrate her commitment to unrelenting academic excellence, to the well-being of the whole student, and to the well-being of the whole enterprise, to interdisciplinary partnerships for the sake of inventive and pragmatic solutions. Every citizen of the NYU community, past and present, will benefit from Linda's depth of knowledge, values, and clear-eyed assessment of how we can reach even greater heights. And of course, from the unique flair she brings to daily life on campus, here, there, and everywhere. The Board of Trustees and I are absolutely thrilled to work with Linda in serving and sustaining our incomparable university. It is a pleasure to welcome you to today's ceremony as we set the stage for NYU's third century. Thank you for joining us.
Please welcome Rima Al-Mokarab, NYU trustee, who has a presentation from NYU Abu Dhabi.
Good morning, everyone. It is wonderful to be back in New York, and I'm delighted to be among so many students, faculty, staff, alums, and friends. It's my great privilege to serve this community as a trustee under the leadership now of Mr. Evan Chesler. The strong and enduring partnership between UAE and NYU is built on a mutual recognition of the power of universities to improve individual lives and societies. When Abu Dhabi and NYU first collaborated in 2007, we shared a vision of just such a university, one that embraced global perspectives and prepared students for an ever-changing and interconnected world. Linda, along with some other people in this room, was one of the key architects of this idea of a global network university and of the creation of NYU Abu Dhabi, the first giant step in going global. Her inclusive approach, her decisive leadership, her energy, collaborative spirit, and optimism propel NYU to even further heights in ambition and stature. And just last month, Linda announced yet another global milestone that's particularly close to my heart: a new full-time MBA program in which Stern School of Business has partnered with NYU AD. Stern at NYUAD, which opens in January 2025, again, embodies the power and potential of going global. Linda, you are a true champion of higher education, a change maker on the global stage, and an inspiration to us all. Today, we wish you every success during your tenure as president of NYU. I think the future looks a very bright shade of violet. Thank you.
And now, Tong Shijin, Chancellor of NYU Shanghai, with a presentation from NYU Shanghai.
Good morning. It's a great honor for me to stand before you now, representing the entire NYU Shanghai community, to extend our heartfelt congratulations to President Linda Mills, to convey our best wishes for the school under your capable leadership, and to extend the same sentiments to the broader global network to which NYU Shanghai proudly belongs. NYU Shanghai stands out as one of the Sino-foreign cooperative universities, first of all because of its unique connection to an academic community that is global in every sense of the word, geographically, institutionally, and spiritually. In a world that appears both massively interconnected and yet deeply divided, there is nothing more crucial for educators than to be part of a university that embodies the spirit of a temple of cosmopolitan exploration, as my colleague Jeff Lehman beautifully described it, and to nurture cosmopolitan patriots or rooted cosmopolitans, an idea I luckily share with my colleagues both in New York and in Shanghai. I would like to take this opportunity to express my gratitude to President Mills for her significant contributions to the success of NYU Shanghai during its first decade, and to express my full confidence that as we embark on our second decade, NYU Shanghai will continue to play an indispensable role in the remarkable success story of NYU as a whole in the future. Thank you.
Please welcome Julia Wolf, Professor of Music Composition and Artistic Director of Music Composition, Music and Performing Arts Professions at the Steinhardt School of Culture, Education, and Human Development.
Thank you. I'm honored to be a part of the inauguration of the brilliant and innovative Linda Mills. We'll be celebrating with a section of my work, Dark Full Ride, that features hi-hats and cymbals. The hi-hat is the wonderful instrument made of two cymbals that open and close with the use of a foot pedal. Many will be familiar with the hi-hat as the accessory instrument that sits to the left of the drummer. But in Dark Full Ride, the hi-hat takes center stage. You will see that I fell in love with all of the textures and timbres within a single instrument. A huge thank you to guest artist David Cosson and 3 terrific musicians from the NYU Steinhardt Percussion Program, Abigail Marcy, Abigail Rodriguez, Grace Spencer. They are rocking it. So buckle up.
Please welcome Ron Hall, College of Arts and Science class of 2023, and former chair of the Student Government Assembly.
What a magical day. Wow. Gotta take it all in. And so, who am I? Well, in short, I'm someone who loves NYU. That's why I came back to speak today. The last time I spoke here was to mark its building's grand opening, so it's rather fitting to return to mark the beginning of a new chapter for this magnificent university. Though if there's one thing I've learned, it's that no one loves this place like Linda Mills. You've already heard about her world-class scholarship, her transformational leadership, but I want to take this opportunity to discuss her commitment to students. I could be up here all day, story after story, but I skipped breakfast, so we're gonna have to stick to two. The first talks about her belief in student advocacy. I last year had the pleasure and honor of serving as the student government chair representing over 60,000 students. In preparation to take on that role, I met with several of my predecessors. And they all made it clear to emphasize that the doors that would open once I met Linda Mills. One even said that if you want something done quickly, Ron, just go to Linda. And so it was a spring day of my junior year. I'm strolling through the park en route to Boat's library, where I'm greeted by none other than Jason Pena, University Senior Vice President of University Life, or as I like to refer to, Campus Gentle Giant, who escorted me to the 12th floor. And as I entered through Linda's office, she met me with a warm hug. We covered a variety of topics that day, but the takeaway is simple. She wanted me to know that whatever she could do to support both myself and students, she would do so with enthusiasm. She even jokingly mentioned doing away with the 12th floor, and if you've been across Bopes, you can see that that's a work in progress. Though the second story comes shortly after, or about a year after that initial conversation. This one a bit more personal. March of this past year, I had a rather traumatic experience where I had found a student who had taken his own life. In that moment, amid the chaos, amid the stress, it was Linda Mills who came. She came with her warmth, with a hug that was a little bit tighter than the one before. And I never told her this, but I think about that conversation we had a lot, and how you supported me, and how you were there for me. It modeled that of a family member, so I thank you tremendously. That's just a bit about the empathy that she leads with day in and day out. Now, I know I said I'd only touch on two stories, but indulge me in a sort of a third. This one is a story that is yet to be written. One where President Mills takes alumni like myself, fellow students, faculty, staff, and this university to new heights that we've never seen before. How do I know this? Well, as I said at the beginning, no one loves this place and its people like President Mills. And if there's one thing I've learned in my 22 or so years of life, it's that the combination of talent, passion, and love are the foundations of accomplishment. And I cannot wait to see all that this university accomplishes under President Mills' leadership. Thank you.
And now, a special message from Professor Martha Minow, former Dean, Harvard Law School, and 300th anniversary university professor at Harvard University.
Linda Mills was a graduate student at Brandeis University, and as she was developing her project, her dissertation advisor suggested me to be on her committee and one of the advisors. From the very first, it was striking to me that Linda has a first-class analytic mind, and she also brings her whole self, including her empathy and her emotional intelligence, to everything that she works on. Linda, unusually for most of the graduate students, at least at that time, already was an accomplished lawyer. And her project was fascinating, and I learned a lot by working with her. She actually had represented individuals in Social Security hearings before administrative law judges. She identified a variety of ways in which the judges did not follow the rules, did not accommodate people with special needs. She also, though, wanted to look at it from the perspective of the judges and how they lacked the tools to do what their assignments were. It was a surprising finding and a preview of what we all have come to see about Linda, that she looks at problems from every angle, trying to understand how did we get here and how can we move forward. I don't know how quite to convey how much courage it took for her taking on the fellow reformers, fellow feminists who had developed the initial legal responses to domestic violence. Rules adopted in many states that said once there was a complaint, there was no discretion on the part of the police or the prosecutors whether or not to trigger the legal system. She challenged that by looking at the evidence, seeing that this did not alter the patterns in many, many instances, and also seeing that many of the victims did not like the results and felt that they were demeaned. Well, Linda hit a firestorm. It was incredibly controversial to look at these issues in any way that had sympathy for the abusers. And she did, just as she did with the judges in her dissertation. She drew on what is now called restorative justice in this country. And it's really very moving to see that NYU has a center on violence and recovery that implements her research and is further testing her approach of trying to break the cycles of violence, but not by using the punitive features of the criminal justice system. She has embraced fully the possibilities of marrying scholars, techniques from different disciplines and different fields. And that's been true of Linda's own research, and I think her work as a university leader. Linda has always approached the university experience as a lived, breathing experience. You know, what should the whole environment be? What kinds of opportunities should people have? She's never leaping to blame someone else. It's always to understand. And from that stance of understanding, to find a path to a solution, and that's a quality that I so admire, and of course one that I wish we had ability to bottle and spread, because we would be a better world. Linda, you've always brought your very smart brain and your very big heart to everything you do, and it is thrilling to see you at the helm of this great university, making opportunities grow for so many people around the world.
We will now proceed with the formal installation of the President. Please welcome back Chair of the Board of Trustees, Evan R. Chesler, who will present President Mills with the founding charter of New York University. Mr. Chesler will be assisted by Aisha Oliver Staley, Senior Vice President, General Counsel, and University Secretary.
Madam Secretary, distinguished members of this convocation, this duty is one of the most important and frankly enjoyable that I will fulfill in my capacity as Chair of the Board of Trustees of New York University. This is a day to recall our past, with pride, celebrate the present with our new president, and look with confidence to the future. We signify the passing of the torch by investing our new president with the university charter. This is the 1831 document by which the New York State Legislature incorporated the University of the City of New York, which is now New York University. Would Linda G. Mills, 17th President of New York University, please present herself to this distinguished assembly? New York University has been gifted with outstanding presidents. Linda G. Mills inherits the legacy that stretches from our first university president nearly 200 years ago to more recently John Sexton and Andrew Hamilton. This legacy cannot be measured in terms other than grand. New York University has, throughout its history, found the right person to lead it at the right time. And for this time, that person is Linda G. Mills. In evidence of the high trust and authority in which we hold you, we are pleased to present to you the founding charter of the university. Having been duly elected by the Board of Trustees and having, in the presence of this distinguished company, received the university charter, you are hereby invested as the 17th President of New York University. Congratulations. Esteemed guests, NYU's 17th President, Linda G. Mills.
Good morning, everybody. Now we're delighted to present the chain of office to President Mills. The chain of office has its origins in the Middle Ages, where high-ranking people wore ceremonial badges. Today, these badges have evolved into necklaces worn by university presidents on ceremonial occasions as part of their official regalia. Please welcome Professor Noel Morley-Liston, Chair of the full-time Continuing Contract Faculty Senators Council and Clinical Associate Professor in the Expository Writing Program, Arts and Science, who will present the chain of office to President Mills.
Madam President and esteemed guests, the chain of office represents the responsibility, authority, and dignity which are attached to the office of the President. The chain of office includes a medallion with the NYU seal, which features classic runners representing the continued pursuit of academic excellence. The university's motto, Prestare et Prestare, to persevere and to excel. And the Statue of Liberty's torch, representing NYU's service to New York City. Above the medallion are a pair of unique components featuring the 17 icon designed to commemorate the historic appointment of President Mills as the 17th President of New York University, with an elevated 1 recognizing her leadership as the first woman at the helm of our institution.
President Mills, the podium is yours.
Okay, let me get my Kleenex out. Hope I can get through it. Thank you all. This is very emotional, and this necklace is very heavy. I hadn't tried it on because we thought it was sort of bad luck to put it on before. Now I can feel how heavy it is. Okay, well, thank you all, everyone who has gathered here today, but also who has participated in this remarkable event and sharing in this truly wonderful moment for NYU. I want to thank my mentor, Martha Minow, for her, my enduring gratitude for her words. She couldn't be here because she was teaching. Very important. So good morning and welcome. 2 centuries ago, during our first decade, physician-chemist John William Draper established a pioneering photography studio to tackle the challenges, the art and the science of the nascent medium. On a rooftop in Washington Square, he captured the earliest surviving photograph of the moon, which is actually displayed here. You can have a look after. It's heavily guarded, but you can have a look. It is this image that provides the inspiration for our historic renovation of the first floor of Bope's Library, already alluded to, reminding all of us to aim higher and reach farther. A century after this moonshot, a prospective student learned that another college would not honor her letter of admission because they'd already filled their quota of two Black students that year. Rather than wait an additional 12 months, she rushed to NYU, armed with evidence of her academic success. Facing the eager 18-year-old, NYU's Dean of Admissions declared, "A girl who makes these kinds of grades doesn't need an application to enroll." On that day in 1929, Dorothy Height became a student in our education school. Later, as a champion of civil rights and women's advancement, she would work with Martin Luther King and Eleanor Roosevelt and advise presidents from Eisenhower to Clinton. Well, you can clap for that. At NYU, our tradition is the future. Unlike other universities steeped in their histories, NYU has always looked forward. What next? What more? Where beyond? Whether it was our medical school training some 1,200 doctors to treat thousands of destitute New Yorkers in the 1840s and 50s, or our law school admitting women some 60 years before its peers. Whether it was establishing the nation's first school of education in 1890, or enrolling the largest number of GIs after World War II. NYU's history has always been about the future, the leading edge of possibility. As we look to NYU's bicentennial in 2031, we draw on our heritage of inclusion, ingenuity, imagination, as well as our intrepid entrepreneurial drive to envision our future. What is past is prologue. The momentum of our past propels us forward. On September 11th, 2001, just a few minutes before 8:46 a.m., an NYU professor, her husband, and 5-year-old son entered the PS 234 playground, just a few short blocks from the World Trade Center. It was the boy's first long day of kindergarten, and it felt momentous, filled with wonder, but also anxiety. Ronnie looked up at me and asked, "Did you pack fruit roll-ups and my lunch?" He was soon gobbled up by the palpable excitement inside the school. He traipsed off, holding his friend's hand. The parents lingered, chatting on the playground. Many of you experienced that day. Peter, Ronnie, I love you. September 11th, 2001. Amid that unforgettable moment in history, NYU's 15th president, John Sexton, began to think about the months and years ahead. Together, against the destruction of war, we began to imagine a future we could create. A future where we came together to build a new world filled with possibility and promise. Deeply motivated by my own experience on 9/11, as well as family history a generation back, I became one of a handful of people responsible for seeing into NYU's future, for taking action. This is the foundation on which we are poised to build today. Universities fight with words and ideas with a passion for discovery. We live at the frontier, at the edge of the unknown. In the fog of the present, we find new ways to think and live for the future. We inculcate, we induce, we inspire, we debate, dissect, and dismantle. Then, from the rubble, we construct more expansive edifices for our understanding. That is to say, we educate. But at NYU, we provide more than an education because our tradition is the future. By the time the idea of that future emerged from the fog of 9/11, the Great Recession was in full swing. Many of America's universities felt paralyzed by the financial impact on their operations. Nonetheless, NYU pushed ahead to create a global network that would build upon our existing international infrastructure. With our government partners in the United Arab Emirates, we envisioned a new university, one that would include promising young minds from around the world who wouldn't otherwise have the opportunity to learn from professors blazing trails into the future. When NYU Abu Dhabi opened in 2010, 148 students enrolled. They came from 49 countries and they spoke 43 languages. Any admitted student in need would receive full support with no debt. That first class alone of NYU Abu Dhabi graduates now boasts 8 doctors, 13 lawyers, 12 MBAs. It's just the first class, mind you. 18 PhDs in fields ranging from computational biology to politics. And don't forget the 3 Rhodes Scholars from Austria, the United Arab Emirates, and the US, as well as a UAE Minister of State. NYU Abu Dhabi is now 2,100 undergraduates strong. You do the math. Our campus in Shanghai emerged from this success. When NYU Shanghai opened its doors in 2012, 295 brilliant young people arrived. 150 Chinese students from 10 provinces and 145 international students representing every continent but Antarctica, each paired with a roommate from another country. Those same years of innovations abroad also saw excitement here in New York as we welcomed the Tandon School of Engineering into our family and celebrated each new addition to the stunning Langone network. Our New York home base continued to soar as together NYU became a dream school worldwide. You might be asking yourself, what does the future hold for us today? I pondered that question as I traversed the halls, visiting your classrooms, labs, rehearsal spaces. I traveled to Abu Dhabi and Shanghai. I listened to your stories. I connected with faculty, staff, and students who shared their needs and desires. And I listened to alums and trustees who also have big dreams for NYU. What I discovered is that the wisdom is in the room right here, right now, and of course, all over the world for those who are watching. We need to build on this internal and untapped imagination to develop our capacity and do what NYU does best: seize the future. What you told me is that we need to work across departments, schools, units, and our global network as we address intractable problems. We need to build our formidable science and tech resources. We need to cultivate our immense global capabilities. And we need to support our communities' flourishing. And we will. Working across looks like this. Art meets environmental crisis, where the Gallatin Wet Lab encourages experiential learning and creative engagement on the urban coastline of Governor's Island. Public transit meets accessibility, where Tandon and the Grossman School have developed an app to help people with visual impairments navigate the city's bustling subway system. Or robots meet social work, where NYU KAIST and the Silver School are designing a scalable robot to augment the efforts of social workers in public schools with constrained resources. In 2022 alone, our faculty raised a mighty $61 million in research funds dedicated to interdisciplinary projects that address inequality. This is what NYU is capable of when our paths converge. We will seed these and other unprecedented collaborations with startup funds and build stronger bridges to find each other across NYU's divisions. Similarly, we will join forces with global partners, including our own NYU Abu Dhabi and NYU Shanghai, to convene a 21st century science and tech community, one that is symbiotic with New York City's foundation, industry, and financial ecosystem. As of this week, the Republic of Korea is pledging $35 million in support of an AI research cluster here at NYU. All this growth, this aiming higher, reaching farther, does not mean that we abandon our core. We recommit to our humanistic roots with renewed support to our arts and humanities faculty, and by recruiting more cross-school and cross-department hires who will help us interrogate and articulate what it means to be human in our increasingly alienated and automated world. Even as we expand our international infrastructure, we deepen our domestic engagement. A partnership with the George Kaiser Family Foundation in Tulsa, Oklahoma. Tulsa, Oklahoma. Tulsa, Oklahoma. Thank you, Joy. Will open new opportunities for faculty and students to engage with rich local economic and cultural legacies and to support and participate in their further development for the 21st century. And never forgetting that education for as many as we can reach is the beating heart of all we do, we are announcing today that our prison education program is creating a bachelor's degree option for incarcerated students. Our School of Professional Studies is developing industry-aligned career-advancing accelerated degrees for 2,000 working learners. And in a major stride for equity, I'm thrilled to announce that beginning in fall 2024, NYU New York undergraduates who begin as full-time first-year students and whose households make less than $100,000 a year will not have to pay tuition. And we're just getting started. Flourishing is the heart and soul of our task, flourishing for faculty, staff, students, and alumni. In diversity, there is beauty and there is strength, as Maya Angelou observed. And in this flawed and fractious world, so painfully evident today, it takes strength to strive for beauty among disparate fragments, to seek both contrasts and connections that compose this vast mosaic of our existence, to be a piece that holds other pieces together. It takes strength to question and to listen, and to find the apertures, the openings for difficult conversations, for discoveries, and for breakthroughs. From where will we draw the strength, the determination to charge forth on so many fronts as we approach NYU's third century? I know where I draw a great deal of my strength, from the wisdom of a man who thought it was a good idea to recount his life lesson to his 5-year-old granddaughter so she would never forget. Grandpa Nate was born in 1899 in Poland. At 12 years old, he left his very poor family to look for new horizons. Selling buttons on the street, he made enough money to travel to Vienna, where he met my grandmother, Eva. They married and had 2 children, my mother, Anne, and Aunt Rita. Grandpa Nate started his own business. He was successful enough to have a car. I think you probably know where this story is going. The streets of Vienna grew ever more ominous. In early November 1938, the Nazis rounded up my grandfather with thousands of other men and loaded them onto cattle cars heading east. Lindy, he would tell me, the minute I got onto that train, I began plotting my escape. Grandpa noticed that the guards would disembark at each station and march in formation, turning their backs to the train for 90 seconds. He figured he had just enough time to run to a nearby fence and blend into the crowd. He picked at a hole in the floorboard until he could wiggle through. He ran at first chance. My presence before you here today testifies to his daring escape. My family was luckier than most. They had the resources to flee Austria. They had family in the US willing to sponsor them, but not without the devastating loss of my great-grandmother, Charna Mark, who was killed in Riga in a mobile gas chamber. That tragedy left an enduring scar on each and every one of us. Grandpa Nate taught me this lesson. Hope is not enough. To act is better than nothing. Thus, my impulse toward action, and thus my covenant with you to co-create this next chapter. I want to return to where we began. Admitted in 1929 without an application, Dorothy Height found herself the only Black woman in many of her classes and faced myriad forms of discrimination. Nonetheless, she later reflected on her time at NYU, quote, From the moment they accepted me, I loved every brick of that university. Our job is to ensure that we live up to that love. Dorothy Height's experience is a part of the legacy from which we must draw inspiration to improve. Even John William Draper, the chemistry professor from nearly 2 centuries ago, had the vision to gaze into the night sky, but couldn't see beyond his racial prejudices. Humbled, deeply moved, I stand here today prepared to take up this mantle and this challenge. Not alone, not singularly, but with all of you, confident that our best days are ahead of us. I thank the people who came before me, the extraordinary former presidents Andy Hamilton and John Sexton. Former board chairs, the formidable Marty Lipton and Bill Berkeley. And as we build the future, my deep and abiding gratitude already to Evan Chesler and to the entire Board of Trustees who've placed their faith in me. Thank you. And to the deans, my colleagues in the president's and provost offices, interim provost Gigi Dopico, I feel like I have to do a twirl around, and the senior leadership team, as well as all of you who commit yourselves to NYU's mission every single day. Thank you. Thank you also to our beloved Professor Susan Hilferty, the astonishing Tony Award-winning costume designer who researched the development of academic regalia over the centuries and affirmed NYU's place in that history with this magnificent gown that I proudly wear. And a shout out to NYU Athletics for welcoming us into your field house for this beautiful occasion. And last but not least, my family and my friends, I need you now more than ever. We will walk through the present together, unafraid of what we don't entirely know. We will act. This capacity, this will, this action, this is the magic. This, I might even dare say, in the company of many scientists, this is the alchemy of NYU. The earliest surviving photograph of the moon inspires perhaps the obvious question. What will be our moonshots? Everyone among us contributes to the answer because NYU's tradition is the future. Thank you.
Please welcome Ryan Carney, Liberal Studies Class of 2023, Wagner Graduate School of Public Service Class of 2024, and Chair of the Student Government Assembly.
Hello, hello. It's hard going after that, but I'll try. Every summer, a cast and crew of NYU students and alumni come together to build a show that is part sketch comedy, part Broadway musical, part self-help book, and part group therapy. It's a bold mix of things, much like its original creator, Linda Mills. Since 2006, the reality show NYU has helped first-year students transition into their new college lives. Now versions of the show play around the world in New York, Abu Dhabi, and Shanghai. This show is just one example of the lasting impact Linda's already had on campus life worldwide. And it serves as a model for the great things that we can do together to shape the student experience at NYU. Earlier this year, as chair of Student Government Assembly, I had the opportunity to join the cast on stage at Radio City Music Hall, where they demonstrated the amazing talent in our student body with back-to-back performances on one of the world's greatest stages. They poured their hearts and souls into those performances, but it turns out they have been saving the grand finale for today. To premiere a song written specifically for this historic moment, please welcome members of the cast of reality show NYU.
This could be the moment if we only let it. The experiences, the memories, don't let me forget it. We're gonna keep on learning. We're gonna keep on changing. Our lives will keep on rearranging. I'm not yet who I'm gonna be. Looking for the light. Follow the signs. We'll take our time. Living up the journey, so much ahead of you and me. Can't you feel it happening? Feel the hope in what could be. Feel the hope in what could be. Right now is all we need. All we need. All we need. Oh, feel it happening. Making resolutions to the biggest problems. This energy, collective energy, will work until we solve them. We're gonna keep on asking. We're gonna keep on grasping, so we can build something lasting. We're not yet who we're gonna be. So much ahead of you and me. Can't you feel it happening? Feel the hope in what could be. Feel the hope in what could be. Right now is all we need. All we need. All we need. Oh, feel it happening. Feel it happening. Feel it happening. This could be the moment if we only let it. Oh, feel it happening. Feel it happening. Feel it happening. This could be the moment if we only let it. Oh, feel it happening. This could be the moment if we only let it. This could be the moment if we only let it. This could be the moment if we only let it.
And now, Yelena Kovacevic, Dean of the Tandon School of Engineering and Chair of NYU's Dean's Council.
Wow, what a day. Friends here in the Paulson Center and those who are joining us remotely. This really has been a special day for all of us at New York University. I'm not really happy for closing it. I want to thank the faculty, the board members, the students, and the distinguished guests who spoke today. And I want to thank all of you who together are helping lead NYU into a transformative future. As an engineer myself, I'm ever aware of all the moving parts to go into making a rewarding, functioning system. From the presentations by our colleagues at NYU Shanghai and NYU Abu Dhabi, to the wonderful performance by the NYU Pipes and Drums, the Steinhardt percussionists, and the reality show, all the way to the inspiring speech from our President Mills. It truly does take everyone to make a day like today a success. But of course, we would ultimately be nothing without you, all those with a special connection to NYU. Together, no doubt, we are more than the sum of our parts. It has to be a math closing of some sort, right? So thank you for being with us today. We kindly ask that you all remain in your seats until the procession has left. You are then invited to join us in the Commons on the second floor for the reception. This concludes the ceremony. Congratulations, President Linda G. Mills. And everyone have a wonderful day. Thank you.